Hi, I'm Ray from the Radio Workshop, and today I want to tell you about my top band aerial. Right, 160 meters is a great amateur band, but you need a great garden to go with it. Ideally, you want a dipole, okay, which is what is it? 260? I forget the measurement. 260 odd feet. The dipole or the doublet or whatever. If you're going to have an end fed. Half wave, it's the same. You need a garden that is massive. If you live on a farm, then not much point in watching this video. If you live in a smallish house like I do with a smallish garden, my garden's 50 feet long, 55 feet long, I think, my back garden. From the front of my sort of property, where the pavement is, to the back fence is 100 feet. So you've got a bit of front garden, house, back garden. The overall thing is about 100 feet. So, top band, forget it. Or, hang on a minute, just before you forget it, hang on. I have used an aerial now recently for the last few weeks on top band that I really didn't think would work. And it doesn't need an earth. Don't worry about digging up your lawn. Don't worry about that. Slots in the grass. I mean, I've done all this in the past. Don't worry about any of that. So, what is this magical aerial? There's nothing magical about it at all. Hang on, and I'll tell you all about it. I'm going to get my coffee. That's it. It's actually gone cold. It was over there. Never mind. I'm not going to keep you all in suspense. I don't want to do any sort of dramatics. This is amateur radio, not amateur dramatics. It's a doublet, basically. It's a doublet which I've fitted in for 80 metres. Now for 80 metres it's 135 feet, isn't it? I've only got 100 feet, so I'm 35 feet short. So what I did was stick on each end of this overall doublet 16 and a half or whatever it was feet of wire, okay, just to bring it more or less to 80 metres. I didn't hang the wires down in the front garden. It kind of goes, it comes down from a pole on the house to there where the pavement is, and then sort of back over here. It sort of zigzags off to a bit on the house over here. In the back garden it goes to a pole from the pole on the house there, and the extra 16, 17 feet, whatever it is, just goes sort of off at an angle down a few feet, but kind of over there. So it's a kind of like that, if you looked at it from above, for example, it's sort of there and there, I think, or is it there and there, whatever, it doesn't matter. The actual top bit is 100 feet. That fits in the whole area I've got, and the extra 16, 17 feet each end just go off at an angle. So that is resonant on 80 metres. Now, being a doublet, as you know, you can use that on 80, the 5 meg frequency is 40, and up to 10 is 6 metres even. With a proper balanced tuner. Okay, I use 300 ohm ribbon to as the feeder. 300 ohm ladder line and a proper balanced tuner. You will need that. Now the thing is about any dipole or doublet, it's balanced. As it's a balanced aerial, it's got 2 legs, it's balanced. You don't need to worry about an earth. Now this is the big thing on the lower frequency bands, 80 metres, top band especially. If you're just using a random wire or anything like that, a vertical, whatever you've got to have the radials, all under the lawn, and earth mat, chicken wire under the patio, and goodness knows what. And even when you've done all that, if you've only got a garden like mine, 55 feet, I think, the back garden, by about 20 something, even if I covered it all, with a solid plate of copper, a sheet of copper, it's not going to be a particularly good earth. Having all that under the lawn and patio, it's still not going to be that good. You're never going to get an earth that is really good. So the doublet gets over that problem, right? That's the one major advantage of a doublet aerial. It covers from the frequency it's cut for, okay, in my case from 80 metres right the way through to 10 metres, between the amateur bands as well. If you're into listening, you can tune up your ATU and have a listen anywhere between amateur bands. Don't transmit, of course, that would be naughty. Who said that? Okay, so that's one major thing about the doublet. Now there's something else about the doublet that I've discovered. This is the ladder line, by the way. I don't know if you can see that. I've got a spare bit. You can buy this. This is 300 ohm stuff. People say the 450 ohm is better, or better still, open wire feeder. You know, go up to like 600 ohm, where you've got two separate wires and not this sort of thing. This is really convenient, and it works. It's good enough for me. Right, what else I discovered about this doublet was it's far too short for top band. As I've said, top band would be twice the length that I've got. I've got 135-ish feet. For top band, 160 metres, it needs to be twice that length. Well, I can't fit that unless I start coming back on itself and all this, which I might try one day, we'll see, but it's going to be untidy. It's going to look awful. So what I did was I got a really nice balanced ATU. I thought one evening I'll load it up on top band, see what it's like. I thought this is going to be useless. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a really efficient aerial. So I loaded up. There's a kind of local net that goes on, and I loaded up on there on 1980 kilohertz. Loaded up there. I thought, yeah, this is nice. Any decent ATU will load this. An aerial like that, any decent ATU would almost load any aerial properly, or match properly. And I rang a friend of mine. I said, can you go on 1980? I've just set this aerial up. He came on the air, and he's only, he's 5 miles away from me, 20 over 9 each way. I thought, oh, this is good. No interference. That was one of my things about top band, interference. Anyway, 20 over 9 each way. One or two other locals popped up. Yeah, 20 over 9, no problem. So I'm thinking, well, this is great. Even if it's just for local work, this is great. And the thing about, as I say, about interference is, with this, with using this, let me just tell you where my radio is. It's in the front room of the house. So this stuff goes up into the loft and then out and up to the centre of the area, right, which is on a pole on the house. So this stuff, okay, is all in the loft where the house wiring is. Now a friend of mine said, join the feeder together, have it as a Marconi T. So I thought, well, I've not got a proper earth system. You need an earth. We're back to the earth. So I thought, okay, I'll use the radiator pipe in the room, clipped a big battery crock clip onto there. It loaded up, of course. Loads of interference. Signals were not good. The chap 5 miles away, he said, well, no difference in signal strength, to be honest. All it was, my end, was a load of interference from the house wiring. So I decided to forget the Marconi T bit where you join the feeders together. That sort of aerial is good if you've got this coming down outside, not through the loft as I've got it, mid of the garden, coming straight down, and you're going to want the vertical. If you want any vertical at all, which is the idea, you're going to want 40 or 50 feet at least. Bear in mind that a quarter wave is about 135 feet. That's what ideally you would want on top band for a vertical, a quarter wave length. So even 40 or 50 feet isn't a lot of vertical. Plus you need this huge earth map business. So I carried on using it as a doublet. Now, as I've said, it's a doublet for 80 metres, and I'm using it on 160 metres. I haven't done a lot of tests. What I have done is have a listen around. I've heard stations from all over the country. There's one in Ireland, Wales, Isle of Wight, which is down the road from me, massive signal there. Last night, a chap in Lincolnshire. Receive wise, it's great. You know, I can have a listen to people. Transmit wise, I've not tested it further afield than I spoke to a bloke about 30 miles away, I think it was, and yeah, he said, you're 5 and 9, no problem. But receive wise, which is the important thing these days, especially with interference, it is really good. Don't get me wrong, it's a poor, inefficient aerial when used on top band. On 80 metres it's brilliant, and all the other bands. It is far too short for top band, but if you've only got a certain amount of space, like I have, this could be your answer to at least having some brilliant local chats get onto your local net and even further afield. Made some fresh coffee, that's better. Let's just talk about vertical for a minute. Another friend of mine locally, he said, oh, you need some vertical. You know, ground wave. The vertical part does the ground wave. You need vertical for chatting locally. Yes, he's right. He's completely right there. But having any vertical part, okay, then we're back to the Marconi T or an inverted L or whatever type of aerial. Hang on a second. Sorry about that. Local chat calling me on the radio. Yeah. For local stuff, local working, you want ground wave, okay? And as this friend of mine said, quite rightly, you will need vertical. So you're going to need a decent amount of vertical to get any proper ground wave out. And to be honest, I switched between the Marconi T. I built up a switch unit and the doublet. So I got a bit of, my vertical just goes up through the loft, as I said. It's not, I don't know how much it is, it's not a lot, it's only like 20 feet maximum. It was no good at all, no good at all. As I said before, if you're going to have any proper vertical, you want it out in the garden. But the thing is, I think this stuff about vertical on top band, I'm not going to say it's a myth, because everyone will reply and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Take our local medium wave station at Southwick near Shoreham. Right, now they put out BBC Radio Sussex, okay, for one station. There are several that come from there. It's a vertical aerial, huge tower thing, vertical. Why do they do that? They do that because they don't want to be heard in Scotland. People in Scotland don't want to listen to BBC Radio Sussex. Well, some might, but they can't. Okay, the BBC want to cover Worthing, Shoreham, Brighton, all this kind of Sussex type area. Right, they don't want to be heard in sort of Ireland and, you know, down in Spain and all that stuff, especially at night, you know, when the propagation's good. So they have a vertical. If I only wanted to work locally, if you only want to work locally, then a vertical is ideal, but you've got to have all the ground system to go with it, the earth system. I want to speak to chaps in Scotland and Ireland, Wales, Lincolnshire, everywhere. I want to speak to people all around the place, as well as, you know, my mates locally. So what am I going to do? Have a dipole. The station on the Isle of Wight, I expect you've heard him in the past, young Eric on the Isle of Wight. He's got a doublet, and his is cut for top band, unlike mine, which is half the size. His is cut for top band. He's got no vertical element in that. Most of the decent stations I hear on top band have got horizontal aerials, dipoles, doublets. You don't need the vertical element if you want to chat all over the country. That's only for local, like the local BBC station. So it depends what you want to do. If it's purely local, well, to be honest, if it's purely local, just stick a bit of wire out the window and load that up. I mean, it's going to be fine for locally, and just have a bit of an earth system. You know, if it's just local, like 10-mile radius, that's going to be perfect. What you've got to bear in mind is the interference and what any kind of vertical or end-fed wire, any unbalanced aerial. I'm just saying this from where I am. My QTH picks up a load of interference. The doublet, when fed properly as a doublet with a proper balanced tuner, the interference just falls away. It's absolutely incredible. Going to frighten you now with a blackboard. Just one other thing about a vertical. You've probably heard of angle of radiation. If you want to work DX, I don't mean Scotland, I mean further afield than that. I don't know about on top band so much, but a vertical, well, yeah, top band as well. Vertical aerial has a very low angle of radiation. Okay, so you head off. So I'm here in Worthing on the Sussex coast. So I head off, okay, my signal, climbing and climbing like an aeroplane, you know, over Hampshire, Devon, Cornwall, right, over Southern Ireland over there, and it eventually hits the ionosphere and starts to come back down and goes down in America. Right? So that's good for that. If you want to work that sort of thing, you've got to have a proper aerial, you know, like 135 odd foot vertical with all the earth stuff and all that. To be honest, you've got to have a big garden to do that. you want to farm. I'm talking about getting people, especially newly licensed amateurs. You know, I've known one or two locally, and they say, "Oh, how do I get on top band? How do I get on 80 metres? You know, I haven't got a proper sized garden and all this." So this is the answer. This is what mine is. Okay, that is 100 feet. That's the back fence. That's the pavement. I've got a little pole out the front. As people walk past, they look at it. Oh, what's that? They look at it. There's this wire. Probably think, oh, some nerd lives there. This bit here, I just brought back to the house. This bit here, I've just taken, I can't remember, to a pole somewhere. So this here is the doublet. That's 135 feet. This is this ladder line. I've just shown you that, you know, a lot of you will be saying, "Oh, we know all this. What's the point?" No, we know that. Well, not everyone does know it. That's the point. When I was young, like 12, 13, I was learning. I used to listen to the old boys on the shortwave amateur bands on 80 metres. I'd listen to them, and on top band, and they were talking about aerials, you know, and I didn't know at that time, but I listened to them and I did learn stuff. That's the ladder line down to an ATU. This comes down through my loft, through the ceiling, made a hole in the ceiling. That didn't please my wife. Proper balanced ATU, little bit of coax to the radio. That's the setup. That's how you do it. As I say, this in my case is 135 feet long. And that's it. That's all you've got to do. Get yourself some of this. I think this length here, I said about 20 feet, didn't I? It's more than that. I think it's probably 40 or 50 feet I've got of this. But it's not all vertical, and most of it's in the house. So if I feed this, if I join these two here together and just feed that as one piece of wire, I will then need a proper earth, which I haven't got. You know, then this bit here starts transmitting and receiving. The thing about a doublet is this doesn't radiate when you're transmitting, and it doesn't pick up stuff on receive. Only the aerial does. That's the idea behind it. So yeah, that's why when joined together, I'm picking up a load of interference. That's from this section here that goes through the loft and the ceiling and all the house wiring. Now I have another. What I've done, I've got a piece of wire just out of the room, right, just kind of round the corner of the house, down the garden, back up to the gutter. It's about 180 feet long. And what I've done, I've switched between the Marconi T, that's joined together, the doublet, and this piece of wire. Now this piece of wire is a lot longer than the doublet is. It's end fed, obviously. There it is, that piece of wire. It's end fed. So I will need an earth. I've had to use the radiator pipe because my garden earth is no longer in use. And it just picks up a load of interference. I can switch over to that. Brrr, buzzing, crackling, popping, loads of interference. Switch to the doublet, and it's really relatively quiet. It's about, I mean, on this wire and on the Marconi T, I've got S9 plus of noise. On the doublet, it goes down to 6 or 7. I mean, that is still high, but bear in mind where I am. You know, the aerial goes over the house. I'm not far from the town. It goes down. Most times it's about S6, which is very good on top band. All other aerials I've tried are S9 plus of noise. So that's the setup I've got. So that wire there, I haven't done it yet. I'm going to take down. There's no point in having that. In fact, what I've done, I use that to listen to some long wave stations. It's not bad on long wave, so I might leave it up. Don't short that out. Feed this as a proper doublet, and that's my setup. I've written a couple of things down because I can't remember things these days. I forget what we're talking about. I can't remember. Right. I talked about low angle of radiation. Okay. Vertical, you've got your ground waves, so your really good signal locally. Plus, you've got this low angle of radiation for, you know, working sort of people in America. I doubt you're going to do that anyway. Right. A horizontal aerial. So any horizontal aerial doesn't have any vertical in it at all. Okay, unless the coax or the feeder's radiating, which it shouldn't be. So how come then I can listen to people in Scotland, chat to people in Scotland if I've got horizontal, is because a horizontal aerial here, this bit here, it radiates not just low like that, it radiates all over, you know, all up here. So you're sending stuff, if, say this is the Earth's surface, right? There's Scotland, and I'm not left-handed, and there's Worthing where I am. Okay, I'm sending stuff all like directions like this, but there is some going here, so it goes up and bounces back down into Scotland. Okay, this is all a mess now, isn't it? It's dreadful. Okay, so, and the ends coming down a few feet, they don't count as vertical because the ends don't radiate, or hardly at all. The end, this is your doublet, all right. This is the current. Not go too much into this because it's going to confuse people. Maximum radiation is here. This is the maximum current is here. At the ends, there's no current. It's all voltage at the ends. The ends don't radiate much. It's the middle bit you want out in the clear, preferably. My middle bit's over the house of the roof, which isn't, you know, it really wants to be clear of that. Okay, so the ends, if you hang the ends down a bit like that, it's not going to matter. It won't affect, or it won't affect much anyway. The you know, the actual transmitted or received signal. Okay, is there anything else? What have I written here? Yes, so that's, as I said earlier, all the stations I've heard that are good signals in the UK use horizontal aerials. The best aerial I ever had on top band, I couldn't feed it in the middle because of where I was. It was a end-fed half-wave wire, right? Came out of the upstairs room in the house, right, up to a pole at the end of my garden, and then way over a nursery at the back of my garden to a tree, and it did. I think it zigzagged a little bit. That was half-wave on top band, and people used to say to me, you know, blimey, what sort of aerial have you got? You know, what a signal, amazing signal. They're not going to say that now with my short doublet. Okay, is there anything else to say? You'll all be emailing me and contacting me and saying, what about this, what about that? Bear in mind, as I said, just to stop people saying, you know, you don't know what you're talking about and that aerial's useless. Yes, it will be useless if you compare it to a proper doublet cut for top band up at 100 feet in the air. Then this one of mine will be totally useless if you're going to compare it, you know, with that. If you live in a little place like I do, a little garden, I don't live in the garden, I live in the house, but if you've got a little garden, okay, and you want to go on top band, this, well, from my point of view, in my case, this is the best aerial that you can use because you've cut the interference down and you can actually hear people. It's no good people hearing you if you can't hear them. It's no good some bloke in Devon saying, oh yeah, you're 20 over 9, amazing signal. And I'm thinking, what? Is there someone there? I can't hear anything because of the interference. That's no use to anyone, is it? I remember a chap recently saying that he admires anyone that's only got a small garden like I have, but gets the best out of their radio and their aerial, you know? Not just a bit of wire hanging out the window, but put a bit of thought into it and get the best they can out of their situation. He admires people like that. And I do. You know, so many people I've heard, you know, over the years, oh, I can't go on top band, I've only got a small garden, can't use top band. You know, it's such a shame because it certainly locally, of course you can use top band. So, you know, have a go at this. And also bear in mind, if you can fit in, you know, 135 odd feet, that's 80 metres. You know, it is a doublet cut for 80 metres, so it should be pretty good there. Mine isn't brilliant on 80. Well, it is pretty good on 80, but it's not as brilliant as it could be because it's right over the house and it's not that high above the roof of the house. It really wants to be up here. But what mine is brilliant on is 40 metres. I said to a chap the other day, he was up in Scotland, and I said, oh, before you go, can I have my report? And he said, you're joking, aren't you? And I said, no, I just, you know, like a report, try at the aerial. He said, well, okay. He said, if you want to know, you're 20 over 9. I said, oh, okay. Sorry, I asked. I was running 30 watts. I'm in Worthing. He was up, so I forget where, in Scotland. I was running 30 watts on 40 metres. There you are, 20 over 9. So, you know, put this aerial up, even if you don't want it for top band. I'm just saying that this is the aerial I put up for all the bands except top band, and it happens to work really well there. And now I'm waffling and you're all dozing off and thinking, oh come on, the pub's open, when's he going to shut up? Thanks for watching. Hope to hear you on top band sometime. Thanks a lot. Cheers for now. Bye bye.